Olives, pita with hummus, stale bread, a beef patty, a white cake, and wine to wash it down. A last meal. Being Greek, food has always played an important role. It gathers a family, unites friends, and gives a bonding experience to everybody around the world. It parallels life stages in social development, offering definition to human characteristics and mannerisms. I'll start with the Calabrese olives, a wonderful hors d'oeuvre. It goes with anything. I remember eating the wonderful olives fresh off the branch. I grew up on an olive farm in Greece with my family. There was an orchard with rows of olive trees. I would run between them, playing games as my father worked. It was bliss, to be so young and to have no troubles. I can still remember the walking into the kitchen and stealing olives that my mother would be soaking in brine. I'd grab them off the counter like jewels of candy and run. In the olive grove, I would pretend they were tiny emeralds and I was king of the world, but not anymore. I yearn for the days of my childhood. The residual taste left by the assortment of Calabrese olives leaves an aftertaste that goes well with a Bordeaux, even if it is from a box like what I'm served here. It's a beautiful wine, with a pungent aroma and character, as every vineyard has a twist on the classification. It is a sturdy wine, not quite as strong and bold as a Cabernet, but with a satisfying flavor palette giving it versatility. At home, wine was very social. It was to be enjoyed with family and friends around a table at dinner, or on a leisurely day. When wine was served, it opened the door for connection and interpersonal relations. My father's a man of few words, which is balanced by my mother's gushing constantly. I remember it well, the day I told him about George and me. It was right after a large meal. We were just sitting around the table, sipping on our wine. I could feel how my heart hammered in my chest. The words seemed to catch in my throat. They almost never came out of my mouth, but then I saw his face in my mind. It gave me the courage. Luckily for me, I am blessed and my parents accepted me for who I was. The next thing I asked for was hummus. Chickpeas have always been one of my favorite foods, but nothing is better than eating them mashed with lemon juice, garlic, salt, olive oil, and tahini. The pita bread they gave me to accompany the hummus was dry, but what else did I really expect? Diving my pita into the hummus, I can already feel the grainy chickpeas on my tongue. The tanginess of the lemon juice and garlic combination goes perfectly with the pinch of salt. It hurts to even think about him. Every memory of him makes me feel empty. I try to remember the good time we had, but they are so acute and real. It's painful to stop remembering. We used to have picnics in the park. After a day of helping my dad on the farm, we would meet on the other side of the grove. Hummus and pita, that was what I would pack. Words do not describe how I longed to be lounging on that old bench, looking into his blue eyes again. I would do anything just to get back to him. Stale bread, a favorite of mine, not because of the flavor, but instead the meaning. Its crusty flavor reminds me how far I've come. It is no longer my only food option, but is instead something on which I choose to dine. I survived on it for so many years in such desperate conditions, but now I have so much more. Even prison food is better. I remember the day clearly. It was August 13th, 1941. That was the last I saw of him, the last I saw of my lover. But now I'm all alone in this dark place. No friends, no family, no George. On the ground next to me was my dinner for the night, a piece of hardened bread. I held it in my hands, trying to break it in half. It made a snap noise. For the next 4 years, that bread would be the only comfort I had as everyone around me dropped dead, leaving scraps behind that the rest would devour. That day George got dragged off, August 13th, 1941, was the last I ever saw of him. A burger. I never really enjoyed the thing. It was too greasy, but they were decent if you went to a good diner. Just plain, they're nothing more than beef. Just protein and grease from the frying pan. I don't savor the taste alone, not like this. It needs ketchup and cheese, pickles, and maybe onions. Alone, it's bland. I walked into the bar and noticed her immediately. Her long, dark, luscious hair. I couldn't see her face, but I already knew she was beautiful. I walked to the counter and ordered a burger. When I received my order, I sat next to her on the bench. I was too shy to make a move, but soon enough she bumped into me. One thing led to another. And soon we were dating. The last thing I asked for was white cake with white icing and a little coconut on top. It was glimmering like freshly fallen snow on a cold winter day. I stared at it, afraid to cut into the perfect construction. I slowly picked up my fork and began to cut. I knew the first bite would be filled with frosting. For me, cake means celebration. But right now I'm sitting here all by myself, celebrating what? My death? The cause of this? Cake. It was our 10th anniversary, and we had just finished having dinner. I brought my wife a cappuccino after we had cleared the table. She was holding our child, and we were sitting together on the couch after dinner. I told her I was going to get the cake, and I left for the kitchen. When I saw the cake, it was over. It made me think back to George and how we used to celebrate. The torture and traumas and the way I had covered up my life. I cracked.